Alright, so I've been playing off camera here just because now I've entered into a phase where I just need to grind, which is, I think, pretty boring to show because it's a lot of the same battles. So now I'm just leveling up my characters because, like I said, I wouldn't do that off camera without showing you guys. So Anselm is going to be our banner guy. Now Jero, I was trying to make into a nimble dodger, so I was like, well, do I keep putting stuff into initiative or do I put it into fatigue? It's like I have been putting it all into initiative to try to stack up those defensive bonuses using the dodge ability, but I don't think the numbers seem to be correlating. So I think what I should be doing is putting HP and fatigue points in there. I do like the Pathfinder to be able to help move around and then also get to do attacks. So really on these guys that have already max level, trying to just get their fatigue, their melee, and a little defensive bonuses up as well. So, and I've been a little bit hesitant to use the last perk points because I'm not sure what kind of final famed weapons I'm going to find. So as I'm trying to keep these guys for the final battle, I want to use their whatever points to help me maximize their chances with the weapon. I think I finally got the other guy strong enough here where I think he's going to be a better bannerman, and as you can see he's already up to 90. So we'll turn our other one just into an attacker here, Baldwin. He's served us well, but this guy is just much better. And just going to continue on with some of our leveling traits here. So kind of just doing the same thing we do. We got this new tank here, so I'm going to be pretty pleased with him, I think. So just kind of maxing out his defensive capabilities. I'm putting a bunch into range defense as well. His resolve's a little low, so I'm just putting points into that as well with that ability. Because what I want is to have him just positioned by himself and then be able to protect and not break. I'm giving him recover so he can keep spamming his abilities. I'll give him the shield expert so he can get additional defensive bonuses. I also have this other archer here, so he's got 3 stars into range and 3 stars into fatigue, so that's fantastic. He's got some HP, but I don't think it really matters because I don't plan on getting him into combat, so I think the bigger thing is just giving him some range defense. Giving him bullseye in case there's a little obstruction. I gave him that ability to help improve his abilities for range defense. I like to use bows more than crossbows, so that'll give him increased range by 1. So those, I'm pretty stoked with his potential as long as he survives. And then with these guys, just trying to get my resolve up higher since he's got 2 stars there. So that should really help us get him some melee defense and a little bit of range defense. You know, I got his additional perks here, so, you know, I feel like Underdog's always kind of nice to have. Brawny for his armor. It's like Backstabber could be good, so he has additional chance to hit. You know, Executioner gives more damage, but then they have to be injured, and I don't really think I've seen guys with a ton of injuries. If I keep them with a +2 range weapon, then that would give me 5 additional melee defense. So that could potentially be helpful. Obviously, I want to save a perk point for whatever weapon I end up giving him. I could give him the dodge, but you know, that's 15% of 70 is not very much, so I don't think that really makes a bunch of sense. So I think ultimately just increasing the chance of hit is always good because some damage is better than none. Early on in the game, I really like the Fearsome ability because it makes guys run, but later on, I actually want to get the kills to get the experience and the equipment to sell. So now I actually don't like Fearsome, especially because I'm doing final areas, so I gave him Killing Frenzy to try to get his damage up, assuming he can get some kills here. So again, we'll save that last point in case I find some better famed weapons to know what I'm going to be using at the end here. And then this guy, just keep tanking him out here. Getting you all that initiative. I'm not sure that's the best thing to do. I don't think it makes sense to get Brawny because I'm not having heavy armor on. We can get the Underdog, which will allow him to survive a little bit longer, but I think going more with the Recover and then giving him Berserk so he can get additional AP to attack can be helpful. because what I'm not sure is, does doing like a nimble tank make sense, or does he not going to have enough survivability that it's going to be beneficial? And now I gave this guy the polearm, what would you call it, mastery, because that way he can also attack and then lower his abilities, the cost of his abilities. But I'm pretty pleased with
Alright, as I'm running around, I don't think I ever saw this event before, so Garo the Serpent enters your tent. As you wave him to the chair across your table, he sits so slowly and feebly that you fear him standing back up will take twice as long. The man clasps his hands together and elbows his arms onto the table, grunting and shifting, finding little comfort even in doing nothing at all. His lips are dry, his face withered, liver spots model his head, and even the hairs of his nose and ears are gray. You always have time for Garo the Serpent, so you ask what it is he wishes to speak about. This might sound peculiar coming from the Blade for Hire, but I think it needs saying anyways, and it'll make me sleep better at night. I'll be forward with you. I am not the man hired so long ago. You know that. I know that. Some of the men know it, and they are respectful as good men are. You agree, but don't nod. Instead, you ask what the man is getting at. I wish to lower my wage. Now, don't be saying no. You don't have to bullshit me. I'll take the cut. Money's never been an issue anyhow. Those crowns could be used to help arm the men or even pay them better. God knows young men could always use extra crown or two. Before you say another word, the man springs to his feet. With surprising speed, he nods and grins playfully before yelling loudly. I agree with your decision, good sir. I could use a pay cut. You laugh as a man leaves your tent almost as soon as he came in. Alright, an honorable man if ever there was once.
So that's kind of nice. You got to be careful with the events with the Swordmaster though, because you can get a -1 too, where it ends up causing him to lose a bunch of his stats. So that can be a real kick in the dick if that happens. So it's like, we'll give him the nimble, and that should allow him to get some defensive bonuses here, since he doesn't have a ton of fatigue with how I did this. Get him recover. Now the other one was doing quite a bit of damage for me, but I think because he doesn't have the melee attack that the other one did, I think giving him Berserk is kind of, in retrospect, maybe a bad idea, but we'll see how it goes. You know, True Shot here is consistently leveling up and getting good stats, so he's already getting ready to surpass some of my higher tier archers, and he's still got several levels to go, so he's going to probably be my best archer overall. Just keep trying to slowly get up that fatigue. And continuing on with our leveling here. So yeah, with 127 fatigue, that's even, you know, he's almost 100 right now. He should just be able to keep shooting indefinitely. I really like the Berserk on the archers because they can regularly get some good kills. And then they can just keep shooting, because they can technically get 28 attacks if you have 2 quivers like I typically do on them per match, and then if they can always switch them into range.
Suyab enters your tent, sir. There's a group of refugees out here that'd like to talk to you. You set aside your quill pen and go meet them. They're an awful mess, looking more like dish rags thrown to the mud than people. One of the men, nursing a nub where his hand used to be, steps forward and speaks. I take it you're the one in charge? Nodding, you ask the man what has happened and why it concerns the company. He explains, gesticulating with his one good hand. The greenskins are attacking. Well, that's nothing new. You ask where they are and if there's goblins or orcs. The man shakes his head. Well, see, that's just the thing. It's both. They're working together, hordes of them, numerous as the blades of grass beneath our feet. I misspoke in a way. What I should have said is that they ain't just attacking, they're invading, all of them together. Invasion beyond any scope or measure. Don't you understand? You look at the crowd of refugees, children huddled beneath the skirts of their mother, men looking lost. The man continues, my father fought in the Battle of Many Names. He always did say that they'd come back, and now I suppose he's right. I hear the noble houses are panicking and might be joining forces lest to be overrun. If you want my advice, I say stay out of it. Those hordes, there's nothing to stop them. And the things they do. You grab the man by his shirt. The things they do, don't worry me. Get out of here, peasant, and leave the fighting to the fighters. War's upon us. So I'm probably not going to take part in this, obviously. I'm just kind of wrapping up the ending locations here with the Monolith and what is the other one? The Kraken. I think those are the last 2 major battles to do. I don't know if I'll clear out those other camps or not. Let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in. I think it's going to be the same kind of battles going over and over again. I mean, I think they'd be larger forces, but I don't know if it's really necessary. There's going to be much interest going through this, because I think some people are getting pretty fatigued to this game, and to be honest, it's getting a little redundant, so I can understand where they're coming from. But let me know. Like I said, I generally like to beat most of these aspects. I'm certainly not going to be playing for another 200 days to get to 500 plus days to see each one of the events, because I think that's just, there's not enough here to make that go. So let me know what your thoughts are. And I might as well level up our guys while I'm on camera here, because I was able to find just a random Necrosaints or Necrosavants just on the road that attacked me out of nowhere.
So I think I have enough to do that mission now, finally. I really do like giving these guys the fatigue so then they can end up spamming their abilities. I also like to give them some damage so they can hit, but I think overall spamming the rally ability is most helpful for them, especially when you end up getting into situations where you need to keep using his rally ability, and then giving him Fortified Mind will give him 25% additional resolve, which would be good, but I also would like to give him Battle Forge, so then he would have additional armor, so it's like, alright, that could be pretty good as well. So we'll get him Fortified Mind. Now his resolve's all the way up to 137, and then getting that 10%, so that's 13 additional resolve to everybody that's in with 4 squares, plus he's got the ability to use the rally. So that should be quite powerful for him. As you can see, this guy's turning into be quite the character. Although now I'm wondering if I built him out wrong, because it's like I just don't see the dodge increasing those numbers. I just don't know if it's not being portrayed accurately, or it just is an insignificant amount, and really putting all these points into increasing initiative was a bad decision. So I'm not quite sure. I guess we'll find out when he's all leveled up, but I have a little fear that I turned a character that should have been exceptional into a mediocre one, but I'm very pleased with how this archer's turning out, though. He's definitely doing a lot of good work for me. It's like I don't think it really makes sense to do a lot of brownie here because I don't have a ton of, that's like what, 20 fatigue, so we'll get him recover so he can keep spamming abilities. I do like having footwork on the archers just in case they get attacked and locked in, so that way they can get safe. And we'll keep leveling up the rest of our guys here as we're trying to get to where I need to be. I was a little disappointed because I thought I had enough, but I must have either accidentally sold some of those shimmering dusts, or some of the Necrosavants that attacked me didn't actually give me enough of that dust to get to where I needed to be. So I had to come all the way to the other side of the map while I was exploring the whole map a second time, and then I finally saw a temple with the Necrosavants here. So now I have definitely more than enough. So I should now finally be able to go fight this Kraken. But this was definitely pain in the ass, because what happens when you're fighting the Kraken is I think it adds 3 or 4 above what you already have in your inventory for the Ungol hides and the shimmering dust, and so that effectively knocked out all those inventory spaces, so I wasn't able to do anything. So it really slowed down my ability to go here. So that really is unfortunate how the game does this. So I guess the positive side is I've now been able to max out some other characters here. So it's like, we'll get you battle forged. And then he's got one more perk to be able to use. I don't think the dodge is worth it. I've got my mastery. He doesn't get enough kills that do that, so I think I'm going to get him underdog just to help him in case he gets surrounded, to get a little more defensive. You know, just keep increasing our fatigue and our defense. It's like, well, it's just, I keep dumping it into initiative, but again, that should be 15 for each if it's 15 from the dodge with the initiative. I wonder if Relentless would be beneficial with this guy, because if the initiative goes down with increased fatigue, then maybe by doing 50%, I should at least get, you know, 15% of 50. And I guess that's not very good. That's only a few points. So I really suspect that I built this guy out wrong. So now I'm just trying to decide what I want to do. It's like I could turn him into a tank, or I could try to turn him into a damage dealer, but I'm just not sure how well this nimble tank is going to be, if that's even a thing. But this guy is great. Unfortunately, he's not going to be very helpful on our last missions here. So it's like part of me wants to give him Killing Frenzy to increase the damage, and I wonder if I should do Overwhelm, because I like that ability too. But I think it's like, let's just give him Killing Frenzy to increase his damage, because he just murders everything. And if nothing else, if I get stuck grinding longer, that'll help me get through all the brigands, nomads, goblins, some orcs once you start getting through their armor. Definitely does a lot of good work. Even zombies, the heavily armored guys definitely get to cause me issues. Now I did find this famed axe, which has a range of 2. I really like that cleaver that we got from killing the guy in the ice cave, because it does a ton of damage, and as long as you have guys that have good fatigue, that allows you to chop through everything. It's got good damage through armor and everything. Yeah, I'm just not sure about this Relentless in my initiative situation, because I'm just not sure how much the initiative drops when I'm playing and doing a match. So I really am worried that I'm building them wrong.
Alright, welcome back. So I finally was able to kill some Necrosavants. I thought I had enough, but I must have accidentally sold some at one point. So I had to go back out and search for another Necrosavant camp. But as you can see here, I've got our guys kitted out. I'm going to use up our acid on this, because I think this is quite a protracted battle here. So we'll see what we can do. I do have a smoke pot in case I get myself into some troubles, but we're going to use the cleaver. Have this guy here. We've got the main. I ended up giving him this hammer. I don't remember if I had him when we were doing that last mission. Now, the one thing I didn't know is when you do weapon masteries, it says it lowers the skills by the fatigue cost by 25%. So I thought the skills were only like Shatter and Shield Split, but the basic attack counts as a skill too. So had I known that, I would have done weapon masteries way earlier than that, especially with these two-handed weapons, because dropping that by 25% is not insignificant. That's a couple fatigue every turn, and on really long missions, that will definitely add up. And then the other thing is there's these Rondel daggers, and these are the higher tier than the Goblin, and they don't cause any fatigue. So I definitely would recommend that you transition over to these Rondel daggers. I discovered that while we were going here. We've got this guy that can level. So let's get him a little bit of that, a little of this, and a little of that. Now I could give him a perk here, but you know, it's like 25%. Well, maybe that would be worth doing for the slash. Let's hold off. We'll see how this goes. Now, our good melee here. Let's get him that. Get him a little of this. And a little of that. And this guy, I don't know. I think I might have built him out wrong. I wanted to try making a nimble unit here. So I ended up giving him dodge to help with the initiative. Because of that, I ended up pumping a bunch of points into initiative. I wonder instead if it would have made more sense to take those points and plug them into fatigue and HP in case he actually gets hit. I gave him shield mastery, which is why his range defense is so high right now. In fact, I should probably give him a better shield if you're here. So let's get you that. So now he has a legendary shield, and then he's got the Sly Cutter, which is a goblin sword that I found, and it only decreases the maximum fatigue by 2, so I feel like that should be pretty good. He's got this armor on, which is kind of lower fatigue value, and then I put the hyena armor attachment on it, so it gives him plus 15 additional initiative. I don't know if that's really going to make much of a difference. I maybe add a couple of points in here, but since we're under 15, we've got a 60% damage reduction for when the damage goes through the HP, which is why I think I should have, instead of putting points into initiative, I think I should have been pumping up this guy's HP as much as possible, so that way when he gets hit, it's only doing 40% of that damage going in there. So I think that would have been much better than all those points I put into initiative, but I didn't quite know how this would all work out. And then for his other perks here, I ended up giving the shield mastery, obviously. I gave him underdog. Now, in case he gets by himself or I want to sacrifice him, I did give him lone wolf, because that should give an additional 15% bonuses to everything, should he be away for 3 tiles from everybody else. I did give him berserk. I think ideally that could have been used at other points, because I think maybe doing even things like steel brow could have been helpful. I'm also not sure about relentless. I feel like that could be good, because no matter what, it only decreases the initiative by 50 and caps out there. So then that would allow us to at least get, So if that was down to 50, that would be 5. So it wouldn't try. So it would give us 5 instead of 10, I think is how that's going to work. I wish it kind of showed me the numbers so I knew whether this was working out well or not. But, 15% seems like it should be quite good. Ideally, maybe giving Brawny as well. And then obviously a weapon specialization to lower the fatigue even further. So I'm not quite sure what the best way of doing this is. So I'm going to hold on to that point right now. I've got this guy with a two-handed weapon. He's going to be our tank. He's got this Goblin Trophy on, so I'm going to try to run him around to the Kraken and see if he can just smack him in the head without getting taken out by the tentacles. I don't know if this is actually going to work or not, but I thought, well, he's got a bunch of armor, so maybe a range 2 weapon will do well. He's got a little bit of fortified mind, so he still has pretty low resolve, so this may be an absolute flop, but I thought I would try. I'm going to take our archers out. They have kind of the standard loadout here. This one still has a Goblin Bow on for the plus 14% chance to hit. That just seems like it's such a good thing. This guy is finally maxed out, so now he's 103. We'll get you some more fatigue. So look at all that fatigue that this guy has. So he should just be able to go kind of continuously is what my hope is there. And then we'll get him a little more ranged protection. And his perks are totally kitted out. I gave him Killing Frenzy to get plus 25% damage. Berserk, he's got Overwhelm, Fancy Footwork, the Bow Mastery, Anticipation, which gives us more range defense, Bullseye, and Fast Adaptation, the Pathfinder, Recover. So hopefully he should be able to just do a bunch of abilities for us here. This is our banner guy, so we'll get him a little more Resolve, and a little fatigue, and a little of that. And so he's pretty much up to 143 resolve, so that's pretty good because 10% of that goes to additional resolve to anybody within 4 tiles. So he's buffing everybody else's resolve. He's got the Sergeant's banner on, and then just these basic equipment here. Nothing too fancy. I did find several armors that were higher tier, but unfortunately because of the high costs of my team, I was unable to really save a bunch of money to buy those things, so that's a little bit frustrating. We've got these guys here. Which is kind of a standard kit. This dagger here, it does more damage, but it doesn't have the puncture ability. So this is like if you're actually going to fight with a dagger, you'd use this, but not to actually steal people's equipment. So just be aware of that because I wasn't sure about that. So I did buy a bunch of these, and then I found out, oh shit, that's not how this dagger actually works. I did also buy some of these two-handed flange maces because they seem like they're really good against killing undead, which is going to be one of the things we're going to have to do here. And I also got some pole arms, and I purchased some of these hammers because, again, I think what happened is when I was trying to take out that sunken library, my weapons didn't do good enough damage against those skeleton guys, and that caused some issues. So when we're going to do the black monolith, I think is what it's called, and also the Kraken, or not the Kraken here, the black monolith, that's going to be a bunch of guys that we're going to want to take out. We're going to try to do the Kraken, and I think once we do this, we also can fight. I think there's a battle that happens over in the mill to try to get a sword, but again, I'm going to have to find all this out. So those are just some things that I've heard. I haven't actually watched anything to figure it out. I've done this battle a couple times here just to kind of play around, so we'll see if this strategy works well. I might have to exchange out these archers for some tankier guys, but let's see what happens here. With all the time spent there, you thought this place increasingly familiar mire, but the swamp suddenly feels strange and foreign, like walking into an old bedroom, only to know something has been moved around. You find the woman standing at a distance, a formation of her helpers behind her. They're all wearing cloaks made of unhold hides, and they're crouching before bulbs of green light, cupping them in their hands, and you can see slivers of grins brokered in each viridian sheen, rinds of lips hissing softly in fading sanity. The woman's books and tomes and papers are littered all around. A fog lingers, and it has brought with it a horrible stench. You ask where the money is. The woman grins, and her eyes are jaundiced, and lips parched and splintered, and mushrooms bites are smattered across her cheeks. The sellsword wants his crown. There's nothing here but escape. Escape from everything anywhere. What's going on here? You watch as one of the helpers suddenly lifts into the air, and in the green light, you see the slick tentacle drag him backwards, and it seems as though the earth itself opens up, and thousands of wet burrows and branches crinkle and drip. The rows upon rows of fangs bristle, clattering against one another as though shouldering for a slice, and the helper is thrown into the maw, and gums twist, and he is disrobed and defleshed and delimbed and destroyed. The woman chomps on another mushroom and then hands a Karis bulbs of green, and you see that the tentacles slithering beneath each. Join us, Sellsword. Let the beast of beasts have its feast. 2 formation.
Alright, well, I clearly had to make some changes into what my plan was. I did a bunch of matches here, and I was unable to make it work, so now I'm going to try to cheese this guy a little bit. So what you can do is if you have a high enough initiative, so like upper 90s to 100, you can move your guys ideally before those tentacles come in and find you. And if you put them into the grass where it's you see the little eyeball in there, it says that they're hidden, then they won't know, so they only have a range of 1. So ideally what I want to do is try to hide as many guys as I can. Now some people do like solo against the Kraken and stuff like that, by just putting that trophy on this like a tank, and then the tentacles can't do damage, but I don't have enough room in my roster to be able to have everybody in reserves, so I'm going to have to sacrifice some people here. But you do have to be careful when you're trying to do this because you want to make sure that all 8 tentacles are coming after you for the guy that's exposed. And you also have to be careful when they're just randomly moving around because they will search for your guys that are hidden. Not very far, they'll go like 1 or 2 squares around there. So if they're really close to where the tentacles are, or your other guys that are hidden are close to where the tentacles are, if they go side by side, then they'll obviously be exposed. So I'm just trying to hide guys around. And I think the tentacles only have a range or area of view like 7 or 8 squares. So I'm trying to keep that other guy far enough away so he doesn't aggro. But as you can see, they're just kind of surrounding me because in this first phase, the tentacles don't have any attack other than just this grab ability. And what they do is they'll move it 3 or 4 spots. Now you can try to break free, but when you're breaking free, you have to do a roll depending on your melee attack. And what becomes quite frustrating is it's an RNG, so you can just fail it even if you have very strong abilities. And once you get into a range of 1 there, it's an auto kill with the Kraken. And so what I want to do is just try to get all 8 of those tentacles to follow my tank here so I can run to the opposite side of the screen. And then hopefully that'll keep them from attacking me. But as you can see, that one tentacle that's down here by the Kraken mouth is kind of just randomly moving around trying to find out what's happening. And then what can occur is the dogs or the hounds, whatever you want to call them, they can get munched on by the Kraken, and sometimes it's a one-hit kill, another time it just kind of bugs out where the dog will just sit there and keep attacking. So if that's another thing to do some minor damage, is if you're trying to do some additional cheese here, you can just send all your dogs over there, because ideally what you'd want is the dogs to just sit back and attack the tentacles, because occasionally they can do okay damage, but there's no guarantee that's just not randomly going to run past those tentacles and go fight the Kraken head. And now again, it's not guaranteed to bug out, so then it'll just sacrifice your money, so you're just effectively donating, you know, that couple hundred gold pieces over there. But as you can see, I got all 8, so I'm just trying to bring everybody over here as far as I can. And you see how they're just kind of randomly moving. That's what will happen if they're around guys in bushes and things too. And so they'll just, during those random movements, they can sometimes trigger, get next to them and end up uncovering you. And then all the other tentacles will swarm in there because they have quite a bit of movement, even against difficult terrain here. So I'm just trying to get everybody into combat. Now again, you can't use any range 1 weapons against the Kraken head, or it'll be a one-shot kill situation. Now when you do kill the tentacles, it does do damage to the Kraken head, and then it'll respawn them. When you're staying in this first phase, there'll be 8 tentacles, and it'll just keep happening. And then I think the head here has just a ton of armor, as you can see, and then he has, you know, thousands of HP. The problem is on this match, as you kill more and more tentacles, the amount of damage that's done to the head keeps dropping. So by the end of the match, you know, you maybe killed 50, 60 tentacles, and it is doing like couple HP damage. So I think ideally what you're supposed to do is mostly kill the tentacles. Once you do enough damage, it'll trigger the next phase where the tentacles will then start doing a ton of damage to you, as well as you're going to see. What you can do then is, because there's multiple ways of doing it, you can kind of cheese it like this. You can do a straight, try it a slugfest where you're just taking tentacles out, killing them over and over and over again. Using your random rolls to break guys free, but you got to be careful because it goes off of your guy's initiative. So like when he grabs my sword master with the high initiative, I didn't have him with the Goblin Trophy. So, Goblin Trophy? Yeah, the Goblin Trophy I think is the one that stops you from being grabbed. So he'd get grabbed, and then because of his initiative, he would then get thrown out and pulled faster. So that could definitely be frustrating here. And it just turns into be this long, drawn-out battle. Like I was going several matches where I was like 50, 60 turns in, and it looked like the head had maybe 1 or 2 HP left, but I could just never get the final kill. So I don't know if you always got to get the final attack on the head or not. So what I'm doing is just having him kind of sit in the back there, with the hope being that I can weaken up some of those tentacles. Now ideally, if I'm going to maximize this, I should probably have the archers go first so I can stack some of those overwhelm stacks on here to increase the chance of my other guys getting hits here. And I was originally going to try to use those poison on our blades here, but it seems like it only sticks around for one turn, so it adds a couple damage, and it only lasts for 4 attacks, so I don't know, the poison just doesn't seem worth it. So in the long run, I wish I hadn't wasted so much inventory space. I thought that was going to be like a game-changing thing to put that on these boss battles, to just add up all this additional damage, but it doesn't really work out that way. And then a lot of the buffs that are on the Kraken, you know, they only stick around for like one turn, so you can see I'm stacking up all this bleeds, but then the following turn, all those stacks gets taken off too. So yeah, in theory it would have been a great idea, but in practice it just didn't happen. So now we've triggered the next phase. As you can see, he's got the aggressive Kraken tentacles there. Now the tentacles really suck at doing damage to the shield, so I just have kind of a lower tier shield on right now because it gives me more melee. But even with all of his defense, they still do a ton of damage, as you can see there. I mean, he almost did a quarter of my armor. And did probably, what is that, a quarter of my HP too with each attack that gets through. Now he's got those armors and helm on to try to resurrect or try to heal him every turn, but definitely taking some big hits here. So I'm like, just try to shield wall, take as much as you can to keep you alive here, and hopefully we can keep cutting him down. But now it's just kind of a race against time. He is starting to do damage to my shield, as you can see there. So I'm being kind of sloppy here, just randomly attacking whoever goes first, but I'm missing a lot of attacks, and unfortunately he ran out of fatigue, so now he's not shield walling, so now he's going to probably take a bunch of hits here. Yep, and they critted him, so they just fucking killed him out straight, so that's unfortunate. So now they're going to start swarming on me, so I better get some hits here. Alright, see, it looks like he's got like no HP, but I think it's just because his pool is so big that it looks like I'm doing no damage, but we got the kill, so that's fantastic. Unfortunately, we ended up missing an eye, which is not terrible with his injury.
Holy shit. Alright, so we ended up losing our guy here, which is totally fine, and we ended up having our tank, but he just ended up getting a missing eye, which seems to be the freaking injury of our career. I mean, it seems like other brain damage and missing eyes, a bunch of our guys have been doing that, so I'm happy to take those losses here. We even got our item back, which is not too bad here. So we'll take that, do this. Oops. It's kind of cheesy the way I did that, so I don't know. I don't feel great about it, but it's a really frustrating match because there's a lot of RNG on it. I mean, there were several times where I almost beat this with minimal losses, and then all of a sudden, as soon as you get pulled into the swampland, you just can't stop the tentacles from pulling you into the mouth, and then you just start taking loss after loss, and then you end up having issues with your fatigue. So there were several times where I got him down to where it looked like no health, but the issue is the more tentacles you kill, the less health damage it does. So I was killing it, and it looked like there was no health available on the Kraken itself. So I don't know if I just at the end was getting such little damage dealt to him that it wasn't doing anything, or whether you can get him down to like 1 HP, and then you literally have to go over there and punch him in the face once, and you have to get through that armor. It's really not clear to me, because there was times where it just seemed like he had no health. It just said like near death, near death, near death. I get kill, I get kill, I get kill, and I'd be 50 turns in, and it just wouldn't die. So I think what happens is maybe you have to kill a bunch of tentacles, and then at the very end get in there at the last phase and then get through the armor and smack him down. But our tank definitely did a good job there, served his purpose. Now, interesting, if he does die, then the tentacles will all come back and start attacking. As you can see, he was about to come down here and start hitting us, but definitely was well worth sacrificing this guy for. yeah, I'm not going to show the episodes of me like trying to do it the other way because I just don't think it's beneficial because it's literally me just sitting there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, killing tentacle after tentacle. Because what happens is the first phase will only grab you, it won't do damage, which is pretty easy to negate, especially if you bring out a lot of guys like what I have here. There are videos of people like soloing it, but I have so many guys that I can't solo him because I have too many guys in reserve, so you can only have X amount of guys back there. So I had to bring everybody out, and then in order to keep their initiative up, which is why they're all naked, I could then run them into the bushes so they could hide, then use the tank to run over and escape. Now there is a bug in this, as you can see, is occasionally when you're bringing the hounds out, they'll get killed, but it doesn't always kill them appropriately. And then you have like this immortal hound that will just end up attacking the um, Kraken, which gives you some additional bonuses. Now, if I would have min-maxed this, I would have had my regular archers attack first to stack the overwhelm, and then that would increase the hit chances. So perhaps if I had done that, I would have stopped us from losing the tank. But, it's just a missing eye, so it's not the end of the world. But I think if had I been doing that a little smarter, I could have even prevented this loss. Now, I find with this many characters, it's very hard to get a random spawn map where you're going to end up having enough guys in the bushes that you can just all run them in there. So I wasn't going to keep reloading to do that. I just wanted to get this match done, especially since I was pseudo-cheesing it. Now, in my mind, I justify it because it seems like, oh, you're going to fight this Kraken. Well, you have your guys hiding in the bushes. You send out a distraction party, take the Kraken tentacles, and then everybody else jumps it while it's preoccupied is kind of my story way of justifying this poor technique. But like I said, I just don't understand if you have to actually hit the Kraken head, because I was killing tons and tons of tentacles with all these guys, doing tons of kills for, hour and a half, 2 hours, and it looked like there was no health left on the Kraken head itself. Now, it has thousands of HP, so it would be one of those things that would be nice if it actually told you the numbers on there so I would know if I was just stalling out and like literally a couple kills away from beating the Kraken the other way, in which case I'd probably keep pushing through it. But I don't want to sit here and spend hours and hours doing this if I now don't even have the right technique down. But it seems like it has a vision of 7 or 8 tiles. So if you keep the guy there, you can corral the tentacles back there and come after you. One of the things you got to be careful with is sometimes the other tentacles will be hiding in the bushes, and so you'll think that they're all following you, but then you'll run in with your other party, and then there'll be 1 or 2 tentacles still there. So always count, because there's a total of 8 of them, and then later in the phases it drops down to 4 when they're attacking you, and you kill enough of them. But still, they hit hard. And so they regularly were killing a couple of my units. So that's why I'm not opposed to suffering a couple losses here, because that's what I would have suffered the other way around with the units I have. But it seems like it just gets very frustrating because when you're trying to untangle the guys that are captured, there's a little bit of RNG on it. It seems like it mostly depends on your guys' melee attack, but then again, they'll just randomly fail some of those checks for no reason, and sometimes a couple, and then it's just like the whole thing falls apart when you've invested all that kind of time. It just gets frustrating. So I apologize if this is not the victory that you wanted to see for me to beat this Kraken. It kind of shows a loophole here, but again, I spent several hours doing it, and then it just wasn't clear to me what was occurring at the end here. So victory is ours. Tentacles chain across the swamp in corrupted mass, such as you didn't slay the Kraken so much as annihilate every place it called home. Every wormly visage is wimpled with swamp moss, a stretch of profitable farmland to hatch the very mushrooms you saw the woman eating time and time again. You crouch beside one of the unharvested batch, poke at the caps like a cat at a wingless moth. The fungi deflate at the touch. Arnoff looks at them. Mycologists might know what those are. You nod. Yeah, might. You move along, crushing the shrooms underfoot and wading through the limbs of bloody cloaks floating along the swamp, and the tentacles' faceless heads as their leafy maws fold over each other and their tongues lolled like whips. You find the woman nestled behind the cast of kudzu, yourself parting the vines like a man seeking his fortune. She regards you with a grin. Did you hear it? Did you hear its beauty? Sighing, you tell her the shrooms overtook her mind, and the shrooms were likely there for a reason, that the Kraken had her well before it ever rose, that it used her to bring everyone here. Grinning even more, she only asks again if you heard its beauty. You tell her you heard it die. Her brow froze. A cry of death? Is that what you think? Oh my, oh no, stranger. That was a cry for help. Don't you get it? That means there are more out there, more, perhaps hundreds, and now they are awake, and now they are all awake. You step back and close the kidzu curtain. Arnoff tells you that the company has found something. For a moment you think to save the woman, but you know better. You know the grip she is in, and leave her be. All right, show me what you've found. What's been found? The creature is almost too large to die properly on its side, and instead tilts forward with its horrid mouth gaping like a hole blasted into the leaning bastion. One sellsword sits cross-legged atop the Kraken's dome like a moth deep in study. Another is poking the creature in its eyes until one pops and the corners of the socket slurp the liquid into a frothy gargle. You ask the mercenaries what of import has been found, and one waves you over to the creature's maw. The slackened gums, the teeth now hang downward, limp crenellations of a tower of horror. The slew of razors coated in cloth and flesh, and so large that whole limbs are wedged between them. And so is the blade. You reach into the mouse and wrench out the blade and wipe it down with the cloth. Turning the blade, you spot glyphs in fuller, with numbers beside them, a suggestion of smithing, eternal yet purpose particular to a time and place. The steel is so vibrant it seems to have been fashioned by the light of the stars themselves. Unfortunately, there is no handle for it, and you immediately do the math at a sword unseen of unseen magnificence with no handle, and one strange old man in a secluded wheelhouse with a bladeless handle. You think you know just where to take this, and you put it in your inventory and order the company to plunder whatever else is worth taking, including the so-called beasts of beasts. You gain the sword blade. We prevailed. All right. And did it in fact give me the sword blade? It did. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't gonna leave me hanging here. So I'm going to equip all of our guys here and see what I can do to hopefully get some equipment back on these guys.